Welcome to the Jets UK podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Andres Groves, and I'm joined by one of my co-hosts, David Wyatt-Hupton. David, how are you doing?
Doing good. The season's a week away, so a lot of excitement there. I was on holiday last week, so that was nice too. Weather's a bit crappy, but I feel reluctant to question the weather considering what's going on in New York at the minute with the floods.
Exactly. Yeah, fair enough.
So,
it has been bad though. It has been a really poor summer. Like, you definitely have to worry about what you say about the weather because of what's happening elsewhere. But we can categorically say that the summer's not been existent really, except for a couple of days here or there. So
I was in Scotland last week and it was roasting. It was like 25 degrees. And anyone who knows anything about the UK knows that Scotland shouldn't be 25 degrees.
No, at any time of the year.
At any point.
No, but it's good to kind of get your holiday, get all that, recharge the batteries. Obviously, we've got a lot to cover this year, a lot of excitement coming up with the season. We're recording on Friday, so there's 6 days until the season starts and 8 days until the Jets play their first game. So, really exciting times. So on today's show, we're going to have some bold predictions that me and David are going to put out there. Some negative, some positive, just some things that we kind of want to pin our flag in some of the stuff that's going to happen throughout the season. But first, I think we've got quite a bit of news to talk about, so I think we'll jump into that straight away. Okay, so it was a big news week this week. Obviously, cutdown day, lots of stuff happening. But we also saw quite a big trade happen. We shipped off Chris Herndon to the Minnesota Vikings for a 4th round, and we sent a 6th round with Chris as well over there. David, what do you think of this of him going and the return we got back for him?
It was a surprise, mainly because our depth at tight end just isn't overly good. So I was quite surprised when I saw the news that he had been traded. Obviously, the Vikings were looking for cover after Irv Smith's injury, so that makes sense from their perspective. Herndon's just an interesting case, isn't he? He's kind of like a guy who flashed that potential and then had a ridiculously down period where he couldn't catch anything. He didn't look that interested. His head seemed to have gone. So changing a 6th to a 4th, getting rid of a player who's had a fair few chances and not come through, I'm not upset about it. But I don't necessarily feel that confident with the tight end room as it stands. We're kind of putting all our eggs onto Tyler Kroft because Daniel Brown and Ryan Griffin, they're not the guys you want to be counting on in the middle of the season for a young rookie quarterback. So, what did you think? Are you sad to see Herndon gone, or?
Yeah, I am. Because I really did think that he, after what you saw in the rookie tight end year was a very strong one for a rookie that you don't normally see. From the tight end position. So it set expectations quite high because you think if someone comes in like that as a rookie, what they can build on from that could be very, very strong because he had a stronger rookie year than some of the greatest that we've seen. So you're thinking, okay, here we go. Okay, he's got all the physical ability. He's put it together, and then that second year was just a disaster with suspension and then the injury. It was just, it derailed everything, and then obviously last year was a disaster for everyone and that basically crushed everyone. So I do think it's kind of threw him off a little bit in terms of, I think if he was able to continue from where he was his rookie year, it might have been a bit of a different story, and he could still do things in Minnesota. I wouldn't be surprised, let's say that, but I think the return for what we had in him, I think the return's very good. Gives us another asset, which we covered the draft very strongly this year, and we saw how strong some of the 4th rounders were. Obviously, when we picked Michael Carter, we still had some other good options like Jabril Cox was out there. So 4th round is good, is a good draft capital there to have. And so a bit sad, but otherwise I think it was just the right time to move on. But I don't think we are. I think we should not be finished in putting together the tight end room over. If we can bring in someone, I would still be pro bringing in Ertz, but I don't know if that's going to happen. That seems to have faded away. But yeah, it's just someone else that's kind of got experience if something's happened to Tyler Croft, because he does have an injury history. That's the problem, even though he did show out really well in some of the training camp and preseason games. So yeah, it is what it is. But I think we need to hopefully have a bit more of a robust room going into the season.
I'm surprised we didn't put a claim in on Hollister or Hudson. Like
Yeah.
those were the two guys I was looking at, and I was kind of like, they're on the waivers. We've got a really good waiver priority.
Hmm.
Are they better than the likes of Daniel Brown and Ryan Griffin and people? Yes. I don't think it doesn't take much, to be fair, but I'm surprised that we didn't put some waivers in for them. Kind of utilised our waiver position a little bit more before it gets reset. Because, like I said, Chris Herndon, anytime you have a 500-yard receiving rookie campaign as a tight end, the expectation is going to be astronomical. But through his own issues, his own mistakes, he got that suspension. It derailed his second season when he needed to be building on his rookie campaign. He was sitting on the sidelines. Adam Gase last year and his own drops. You don't know what happened, but at the same time, Robert Saleh's been in San Francisco. He's been with George Kittle for the last few years, so he knows what it takes to be a good tight end. So I trust his judgment. If he thinks that the Jets can do it without Chris Herndon, then best of luck to him. I hope he does well in Minnesota. I'm not kind of one of those people who, as soon as a player leaves the Jets, I hope they fail and take comfort in them getting cut in 12 months. I kind of want them all, especially in the NFC as well. I always want them to do well, so I hope he does well. There's a good chance that he could turn out to be a very good tight end. But we need to get that room sorted. I'm really surprised we haven't done much yet. And Ertz said the other day he's really happy to be in Philadelphia, which was surprising because I thought he was really discontent with.
Well, that could be something that there could be games being played. Like you say, he's happy to be there. There maybe he's looking to kind of make sure he's not seen as a malcontent. So maybe he would be more. Yeah, I wouldn't be again shocked if he was traded somewhere. Because from their point of view, you've got Dallas Goedert there. You're thinking you've got two assets that you really need one at that level and then a backup, really. So having both of them, even though it's, especially a team like Philadelphia who aren't, you wouldn't think they're not challenging for a title or going for the Super Bowl at this point. They're still kind of on a rebuild, obviously, with the Wentz fallout. So you would think that they would look to try and get assets back for Wentz.
How high would you go for it? What's the highest pick you would be comfortable giving away for him?
I don't know. He had a really poor year last year, which kind of like threw me off a little bit more. Threw more negativity, but he's come back. He's looked pretty good from what
injuries as well.
Yeah. Maybe I don't know if our fourth would do it. Maybe a third would be. Well, I wouldn't be absolutely like outraged because it would help really kind of elevate the tight end room. What about you? What's your thinking about that?
I think maybe a conditional fourth that could go to a third. I probably wouldn't want to give up a third.
That's probably good. That's probably where I'm at. Yeah, that's probably
similar. Kind of if he plays a lot, if he appears in 50% of snaps, how they do this, 50-75% of snaps or whatever. But I think his benefit to Zach could be quite high. I know Zach's got plenty of weapons, which is a lovely place to be for a quarterback. But having that big bodied tight end. And you saw in the preseason game against the Packers how much he looked to Tyler Croft. Both his touchdowns went that way. Having someone like that is always beneficial to a rookie quarterback. So, yeah, I think fourth, maybe moving to a third. If we get production out of him, I'd be pretty comfortable with. If they wanted one flat out, I'd say a fourth is the highest I'd go.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good in terms of that would give us the ability to, if he was healthy and played enough snaps and that would be the biggest question mark is his health as well, or that would be the most prominent thing that you would think a failure would come from. So if you had some protection from that to not give up the third, because of that, then that's probably where you would be at. So yeah, we'll see what they do with the tight end room, but I think it's not going to be. We're still not patching all the holes. We've got a lot of assets next year as well, so we've got to just see. I know we've got to balance like giving Zach what he needs this year, but also looking forward thinking and trying to build in a more productive way. So we'll see how it goes. Another trade that pulled off, and this is one that came the other way, and we sent out compensation, was Shaq Lawson, obviously coming in to give us some defensive end help, obviously with some of the issues we've had with Vinny Curry and obviously Carl Lawson going out for the season. A 6th-round pick, I thought it was pretty good value. He seems to be a pretty good run stuffer. Maybe not the great pass rusher, but I thought it was good value, and I saw the beat was kind of poo-pooing the Jets fans happiness on this because he's not Carl Lawson. Um, but for a 6th round pick, pretty good value, I thought, and a decent guy to fill out the room.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get any negativity about sending a 6th round pick for an established NFL player, even if that player's not at the top end. He's not an elite prospect like Carl Lawson, but you were never going to get another Carl Lawson. That's why you have to pay him all the money in free agency, because they very rarely get traded, and if they do, they're going to cost you a hell of a lot more than the 6th round pick. But I thought Shaq, so we lost a lot of experience there with Carl Lawson and Vinny Curry both going down.
Yeah.
So to bring in Shaq Lawson with a little bit of experience, like you said, he is a good run stuffer. He's decent enough as a pass rusher. He's not elite, but he can get to the quarterback. I think his numbers are actually far better. I can't remember the stat. I wish I could find it now, but I think it was Michael Nani put out a stat about his quarterback hits, and they're actually pretty decent. They're not top 10, but I think they're a top 20 in the league, which it's pretty good for a 6th round pick.
Yeah, and if you pair that with the interior, right, it could help. It could help him as well.
Pair with Quinnen, pair with Sheldon, pair with Foley, and then you've got JFM, Bryce Huff. I mean, you needed to get another body on the line.
Yeah.
And we'll go on to talk about it as well. We also picked up Tim Ward on waivers, and I've been reading a little bit about him, and Kansas seems quite impressed with him last year. He got into a game at the back end of last season, got a sack, got 5 tackles. So 1 game, 1 sack. That's not too bad.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see if he's 6th round, and obviously we chose him over Zuniga. So Zuniga's back, but we cut him for this purpose of getting Tim Ward onto the roster. So that instantly says that the coaching staff has more faith in Ward than they do in Zuniga to me. So it's just interesting. I think Shaq is a really good signing. If you're complaining about a 6th round pick being sent, then I don't know if you've watched the draft for the last 20 years, because I don't know how many 6th round picks the Jets have taken that are still banging around. I don't know how many 4th round picks we've taken, to be fair, that's still banging around.
Yeah, our history of any picks outside the top 10 in the first round, we always picking that. We always kind of got that solid player in the first round, and then after that it was an absolute disaster. And even the first rounders sometimes didn't work out to where we wanted them to be. So, no, I mean, I think you're talking about 6th rounders, and this year we could have a few 6th rounders actually make some difference, which is quite a funny thing to say of all years. But yeah, I think we go through to the 53 now. In terms of the cut down, it was a busy day on Tuesday. I think the interesting one was, I think, after the 53 was brought down, it was the day after when there was when some of those waiver claims were made that, Bless Austin was let go. I know James Morgan was let go as well earlier. Those are kind of the notable ones. Is there any other ones that kind of raise your eyebrows, or you got anything to say about those two?
The cuts were kind of as you expect them to be. A lot of the undrafted free agents got cut. I think only one. I think Isaiah Dunn was the only one who made it onto the 53. And the Jets gave him kind of the highest guaranteed contract for a UDFA cornerback. So that's not overly surprising, although he got beat a fair bit in preseason. So it's going to be interesting to see what they kind of see in Dunn and how he develops. They must be pretty confident that they can develop him.
Yeah.
I mean, James Morgan getting cut. I mean, I hated the pick when it got made, and I still hate it now. I mean, James Morgan. If anyone watched James Morgan in college, because we haven't seen him much in the NFL, he's basically just a cannon. Like he throws the ball 120 miles an hour, whether he's passing 5 yards or whether he's passing 65
or 45, right, for that Hail Mary.
It doesn't matter, does it?
No.
It really doesn't matter. He just, and not having that touch and not having that ability to kind of put the ball where, be receiver friendly in how you do it. Complete opposite to Zach, who is one of the most receiver friendly quarterbacks I've seen. He seems to put the ball in the right area every single time with the right touch and the right velocity. So, I'm not sad that James Morgan has got... I mean, I don't know what Carolina were watching last year to go, that Jets quarterback room, I want a bit of that. Because they're taking Sam, they're taking James. I mean, it's probably just to kind of tap his head for the first game.
It's 100% that. I mean, they took Sam because Sam is Sam, right? They thought they could maybe unlock the potential that might be there. With this one, and it's funny that Salah actually in his press conference, I don't know if you saw it, but he basically... had a little dig at basically saying, about James Morgan going to Carolina. It's like, people said, do you think that they're bringing him in just for a bit of intel? And he's like, well, it's not something we would do, So I'm sure that they are, they're bringing him because they want to give him a shot because they see some potential there. You know, I'm sure that they're not doing that for that reason. You know, it was that kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge kind of thing. You know, but I think they know that it's obvious. You see this all the time. He says, "Oh, you see this around the league as well." So it's kind of one of those things that week one opponent, you get someone from the training from the camp in that same room that can help out, give them some intel. So that's what it is. But yeah, I think we'll see what Carolina. You know, it'll be fun to see them in a week or so.
I mean, it very rarely works. That's been happening
Yeah.
for 10 years, and I've never seen a really good example of when it's because they haven't started game planning yet. They'll
No.
start game planning after the roster's set.
It's just very basic stuff. It's the vanilla stuff, right? It's the vanilla stuff that is good.
But kind of that's the stuff the coaches should be able to pick up anyway from watching Mike LaFleur last year, from watching
and watching then the preseason stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's always it's completely understandable, but it's always an interesting one for me. I wonder how the player feels because is he going in thinking, oh, they must love me, they must love my arm talent, or is he going in thinking they just want to hit me up for what Zach's going to do in week 1, and then I'm probably going to be gone in week 2 or 3.
That has to be on the mind for sure when you're thinking you're thinking they're bringing me in for that reason. They probably sold him on. Oh yeah, we'd like to get you back with Sam. You guys, had a good thing. Sam, would like you to come over, and they'll probably sell it on that. That's probably how they sold it. But that probably definitely is on the back of the mind for sure.
Did Morgan get picked up as a waiver ad, or did he get picked up after waivers as a free agent? Because I'm sure I read
he's a waiver. He was a waiver pickup because the Jets wanted him back ideally, but then the Carolina Panthers took him. So yeah,
I don't know where I saw that because someone said that he had the choice to go back to the Jets because I can't remember seeing his name on the waiver wire.
Well, the choice was that there was an offer there waiting for him. From their point of view, the door was open for him to come back on the practice squad. From their point of view, and that would mean that Josh Johnson wasn't there. I guess he would have been the QB on the practice squad. So, yeah, it is what it is. But we move on from it. It was a poor pick. I mean, you think of, and we'll go to the later on to the practice squad guys who've signed, which I'm pretty happy with. That squad there is pretty strong for a practice squad from my opinion. But Zuniga and third rounder, and James Morgan a fourth rounder last year. Yeah, it's not a great look. I know you put out the little emoji thing of last year's draft class, and
that took me ages. That did.
Yeah, but it's not looking. Yeah, it's not looking great. But that's. Even the best GMs are going to have drafts where they don't nail everything. Even in great drafts, there's a lot of people who just fade away into nothing, and you just focus on the 3 or 4 guys who do here. And I still think that we could have that. I mean, I know Braden Mann's a punter, but other than that, if we get Hall, Mims, and Becton from that one, and then they're kind of good starters or plus starters, and Becton is maybe what we think he can.
Bryce Huff looks decent,
and Bryce Huff is exactly. So
Petrie looks decent.
Yeah, exactly. So there's some stuff there, and then if this one looks even stronger on paper, obviously you have to see the season play out. But I think a lot of last year the good thing about last year is we can blame all the bad decisions on Gase. All those choices are on Gase and Greg Williams, whether it be offensive or defensive. So we'll go along with that, and we'll just play along as fans and just say Joe Douglas got all the right picks right, and the others were on them. So
the good thing about Joe Douglas on that one, it's just that he's cutting it straight away. That's what I like.
Yes,
some people
yes. He's not giving people a scholarship, as I heard some people say.
He's not waiting 2-3 years down the line. If he doesn't think that player is going to make this team better this year and going forward, he's saying, all right, whether you've got drafted by me last year, whether you got drafted by someone else 4 years ago, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you're not making the team better, then you're not here. And I like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that cutthroat of kind of like, see you later.
It's good because you've seen a year of play with them. You see them on the practice field. You see them in games, if they even make the games. And these younger guys coming through, so you want to give these guys a chance because these guys could be, they could break out, be a star player.
Yeah.
You don't want to keep a
Bless Austin.
A Bless Austin when Eccles could be a really solid number 2 himself or a really solid player. Like for example, just don't clog the roster with guys who aren't going to be good enough to be really good. Like don't have don't let guys just they're good enough to do things, but then they block guys who could be great. Like you never know what's back there sometimes, until they get onto the field. So by getting those guys who if you're building a championship roster, you don't want guys who are going to be okay. You want guys who are going to be plus starters in every position. And if you know that this guy's limit is an okay starter, then he's blocking the progression of potential people who could be good. They could be nothing as well. But I think while you're in this position of like rebuilding, you want to basically run through as many people and give as many people shots. And I think that second cornerback position, we're going to see a lot of rotation until one of them lands. And I do think I've got confidence that one of them is going to actually be, a Bryce Hall maybe level kind of in terms of like having a really kind of a decent rookie year. Obviously some hits and misses there, but doing some promising things going into next year. So we'll see about that. But definitely, I like the idea, like you said, about getting rid of deadweight quickly and moving on, and don't kind of be like, oh, it's my pick and it looks bad on me if I do it. Like every GM misses, and I think that's probably something he learned from Ozzie Newsome, right? He's learned from some great people, and like in every draft you're going to miss on some people, and you've got to know your misses and self-scout yourself. And I think we've lacked that so badly, where we've just held on to people. And I mean, no more so than the Christian Hackenberg situation, where we kept on to him. We said, no, we don't need to draft Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes because we want to give this guy another chance. Where you could, from what you hear, like the moment he turned up for his rookie, you just knew he wasn't going to be anything, and they just hung on to him because of the draft capital invested. It was ridiculous. So, yeah, happy with the process, even though there's going to be hits and misses along the way. In terms of people who kind of you thought, I mean, there's a lot of people on the practice squad that I'm actually happy made it onto the practice squad. But there was anybody that you thought maybe deserved a shot to actually get on the 53-man roster and instead of being let go? I mean, I'll start with, I thought P. Ryan. I know people want to say, oh, you got to give this guy a chance, but I mean, you watch the film and Josh Adams, every time he got the ball, he just looks so much better. And they keep on talking about P. Ryan being the kind of the power back, the guy who's going to be the short yardage guy. I'm like, I would trust Josh Adams so much more in a 4th and 1 or a 3rd and 1 situation than Michael P. Ryan. I don't know. I don't know why I'm watching. I'm watching the film. I know I'm not alone in this one. That's probably the one I would be like, well, but then Josh Adams did make it onto the practice squad, so I guess it doesn't matter too much. Is there any other guys that you thought maybe deserve a shot on the 53?
Sure, not really. I think very rarely I agree with what the Jets doing 100%, but looking at it, Josh Adams, I thought, he was quite harsh to miss out, because when he did play, he does look like bruising back is going to take a couple of people to bring him down, and he's quite a nice player to have. So I was happy to see him come back on the practice squad. Kenny Yeboah was a personal favourite of mine, mainly from what I saw at Ole Miss rather than what we've seen this preseason. But then obviously he had a really good third preseason game where he came down with a couple of really key touchdowns. So having him back on the practice squad, really happy to see him. Hamilcar again. I'm quite happy to see him back on the practice squad, because I thought, he had that sack, which is a straightforward sack, no doubt about it. But he did show up a little bit in the preseason, so I thought he potentially could have made the 53, just because of circumstance with Vinny Curry and Carl Lawson going down. But he's a great developmental prospect, so having him back on the practice squad is a really good move. And like you said earlier, I think that practice squad is superb. This is the strongest practice squad I've seen since I've been watching the Jets, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll run through it. So you say Kenny Yeboah, Josh Adams, Hamilcar Rashid, Josh Johnson, Ronnie Blair, the wide receiver DJ Montgomery, Sherrod Niesman, Vincent Smith, wide receiver, and then O-lineman Grant Hermans and Jimmy Murray. Obviously, Lamar Jackson. Obviously, we know a bit about him as well. He landed back on the practice squad. We also got Jamari Zuniga back on, Delshon Phillips, the linebacker, Isaiah Williams, an O-lineman, and then we got Tenzel Smart, defensive lineman, who I thought was just a casualty of the depth that's there. But he showed up. He did really well, I thought, from what you saw. He was, those Packer games when the quarterback kind of fell over twice in a row. I don't know if you saw that. Basically, it was Tenzel Smart bursting off so fast off the line that he actually made the made the guard, I believe, or even the center, I don't know which of the linemen it was, kind of step back and actually trip up the quarterback because of how fast the burst off the ball was from Smart. So I thought he showed up really well, and I'm really happy that he's on the practice squad as well. But obviously that room is really, especially in the middle, it's really a lot of talent going through the depth chart there. But like I said, it's a really good practice squad. A lot of options. If we need people if we have a rash of injuries in certain positions, I think that a couple of decent wide receivers there who could fill in at the back end of the roster. And like I said, people like Smart and I mean, sure, Rodney Eastman did some good things at safety. So I think overall, that's what you want the practice squad is to kind of give you that help to bring in the depth if you have a rash of injuries. So and to develop guys who could kind of make that leap next year in training camp. So no, really happy with that. Reuben Foster situation. That's the next thing basically we should to discuss, because he's come in, obviously a guy who's got, from what we've seen from a talent point of view, everything that we saw in his career, he was great. He had great ability on the field, but a lot of issues off it through the draft process in his first few years as well with the 49ers after a quite strong rookie year. There was a lot of people, obviously, and understandably so, not really happy of the association that he's been brought in because of his history with domestic violence, which is an absolute no. Absolutely, in terms of where you want to go. And Salah defended it and said, I know Reuben, and we would not bring anybody who we felt would not represent the team in the right way. So it's an interesting situation because obviously he had a very turbulent 2018 year. He had those two domestic violence situations. One that was thrown out basically because, one that was showing that his girlfriend made up the story, and then the second one later on in the year was thrown out for a lack of evidence. It's the stuff that you really don't want to get involved with generally when you're trying to build team spirit, team. But I do think that I don't know, my initial reaction was, okay, he's a guy with talent but with issues off the field. He's had a very rough upbringing. He, as a baby, his mother was shot in the back by his father. His father was on the run for 16 years. So you can tell there's a lot of issues that him growing up naturally in that environment was going to come out, and it doesn't excuse anything that could have happened. But I do feel like at some point, you've got the courts have gone through the process of going through this guy's, they brought him into court twice. It hasn't gone through. Now, there's been many cases where people get off when they've committed the crime, absolutely. At some point, though, you can't, this is my point of view with so much other things, that at some point you can't continue to keep people in a prison. If the courts say that they haven't done it, you've got to sometimes give people a chance to reform if there is any issues there. Maybe he got himself involved with the wrong kind of people because of his background that led to these situations, that let him, and then he obviously, again, I don't know if he did it or didn't. The courts have not had enough evidence to prove it. And so how long do you keep someone a prisoner when they're actually not being proven guilty in court? In society, we kind of say, oh, you are now an outcast because you've been accused of these things. And if there's no proof of it, I'm not saying it happened, and you would hate to be with. I'm very strong on this kind of stuff. The Ray Rice situation, I'm very, everyone loves Tyreek Hill, but I'm very sketchy about like the background, the stuff that's happened with him and his family in some of the domestic violence accusations. I'm very strong on this, but at some point you've got to say, well, if the coaches are going to give them a chance, you can't lock people in a cell because they've been accused of something. At some point, you've got to give them a chance to actually try and move on with their life. Otherwise, it just gets worse. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I know we'll disagree with a lot of our Jets fans. Maybe some listeners will disagree with that. I just don't know. It's such a hard thing to do to manage, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it's one that I struggle with. I go back and forward with it.
Yeah. It would be much better if they just went for KJ Wright, right? Just go get KJ Wright. Don't let him go to the Raiders. Bring him in, solve the problem, don't deal with it. I would prefer that 100%. But this is the situation where we're at, and obviously the history has got with Salah.
how much are we moral policing these NFL players? You know, there's a fair amount of players in the NFL
Mm-hmm.
who have got either convictions, so they've actually been convicted of it, and as far as I'm aware, Reuben Foster never got convicted of domestic violence.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it didn't happen,
No.
because I don't know. You know, none of us do. You know, nobody commenting for or against the potential signing knows exactly what happened, apart from Reuben and probably some close family and his partner.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's hard to then judge him to an extent to say you cannot make a living anymore, because this is how he makes a living. This is the basis of he makes
that
a
is
living
where
by
his
playing
talent
football.
in his ability is. This is where he can kind of show his ability to earn money for him and his family. You know, I don't know. You're right. Like, you can't keep people always in the kind of in the social prison for so long. You've got to give people a chance to reform, as you would if someone committed a crime, and you know, obviously depending on the crime, but you know, you give people a chance to reform, and then you get them back in society and see if they can be productive members of society again. And I just think nowadays, you know, generally, this is just generally with everything, right? Like, people are so quick to jump on, oh, you were accused of this, therefore you're automatically deleted from society. And like, if people are guilty of this stuff, yeah, let them, like, you know, let them face the full weight of punishment and rejection from society. But until that point, you know, at some point you just gotta, you know, maybe give them a chance. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if he was guilty beyond reasonable doubt,
Yeah,
he would be in prison. This would not be coming up.
I mean, the
You know,
Ray Rice
this
situation, right, where there was video evidence, it was like it changed the narrative completely on it. And I think you do have to be more strong potentially on what could happen. You know, in terms of like taking it seriously. Absolutely, you got to take every accusation seriously. But after a couple of years of it happening, and it all happened to happen in 1 year, the kind of the arrests and the marijuana possessions and the weapon possessions, and it all happened in like all of the calendar year of 2018. So, you know, sometimes it's one of those.
We're about to enter 2022.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like a spiral. You're thinking about a situation where things can spiral out, and you kind of react. I don't know. Again, it's so hard because with these accusations, you don't want to bring on someone who actually has had this history. But again, you got to go back to Salah. We love the team. We love the coaching. You know, so far, Salah knows he knew him obviously in San Fran. He vouches for him in terms of giving him a chance. In terms of they wouldn't bring in someone that would tarnish the reputation of the team. And if they say that, then we've got to give them a chance to actually bring him in and maybe give him a second chance and see, you know, whether he can get back on the field. We'll see. It's again, bringing KJ right just make things easier, but unfortunately, you know, but Reuben Foster is a very talented player from what we saw. You know, he has kept himself. He's been with Washington, keeping himself trained, so he shouldn't be like out of shape or anything like that. So we'll see. We'll see what it brings, and we'll see if he does get signed. This whole thing will ramp up a bit more. But I
mean, if you look past his personal legal issues, so you know, we don't know the stat. I don't know the exact things that happened. I'm not here to pass judgment on his own personal life or the judicial system or anything like that. But if you look at him, the player, so Reuben Foster, the player, you know, one question is how fit is he in terms of his ACL, LCL injury that he had with Washington?
Yeah.
You know, is he back up to 100%? If he is, does he make this team better? Undoubtedly makes this team better playing next to CJ Mosley.
Yeah.
Reuben Foster CJ Mosley partnership would be pretty special for the Jets.
Yeah, it would.
And if Salah thinks he's a reformed character, if he's never been convicted of anything, I mean, you know, I'm always keen to point that out. He's never been convicted of anything, and people often say there's no smoke without fire. In a lot of cases, that's very true, but you can't just presume that. So if I'm going with, if he's injury free, if his ACL, LCL healed and he's moving good, he's moving fine, great. If he makes the team better, which I think he does, and if Salah is going to vouch for him and keep him under a close leash, then you can only give it a go. He's not going to get a lot of money. He's in a position where he's coming off a big injury with personal issues. He's not going to get a lot of money at all. So the moment if he does something wrong, cut him straight away.
Of course,
he needs to be told this is your last chance,
and it is. I mean, this would be.
It will be if he does it again. He's not playing in the NFL again.
No,
but he's 27,
so yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Like
We'll
I said,
see if it comes up. If he signs,
yeah.
then we can probably go into the moral debate a little bit more, and I probably would research it a lot more. I've kind of just read the top line kind of things that came out about it, about lack of conviction, lack of evidence, everything like that.
Yeah.
And gone with that. If it goes a bit further, then obviously we could dig deeper into it.
I mean, he wasn't on an NFL roster, right? He has been on an NFL. Well, not a roster, but he's been involved with the team, Washington football team. Ron Rivera is a very strong character, a very man of conviction as well. They wouldn't have him around, I would think, if they felt he was detrimental to the team. I don't know. That's just my feelings in terms of like that he's not been, had he been kind of out in the open and not being under any spotlight at all, then maybe you think there's some question marks. But the fact he has been associated with the team throughout these years, even though he's been in the background a bit, they would cut him. Like if there was anything that came up, they would just say, yeah, okay, out of here. You're not gonna, especially someone like since Ron Rivera took over. So I don't know. Like I said, I think we give him. I think it's worth giving him a chance and seeing what happens. Yeah, I think that's just where we have to stand with it. But I know that there's going to be some people who are negative, and I respect that. Like I really respect people saying I do not want anyone who's got anything to do with any stuff because very strong, and I feel very strongly about it too. Tyreek Hill wasn't himself convicted or anything, but with that situation, I had very bad vibes from him with that situation. That was my personal take. Some people a bit more with Reuben Foster with that situation. Yeah, I respect that, but I think that's just from our perspective. I think we're aligned with just let's give him a chance and let's see what can we make of it.
Yeah, I mean Tyreek Hill actually did plead guilty, so I mean he actually pled guilty.
Right.
He actually said,
I forgot about that now. Yeah.
I think it was domestic assault and strangulation is what it says.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill's playing in the league. Young kids have got his jerseys on. Fans are screaming and stuff. It seems to be
people are happy to take him in the first round of fantasy drafts. Yeah,
there is just double-edged sword always, and I'm so completely against it. I'll stand with you. I respect anyone's opinion on this, and if they think that even without conviction they don't want anything to do with him, absolutely fine. I respect that. I understand that. If he had even an inkling of evidence and he got off on a technical, I'd be like, no, absolutely not. I don't want anything to do with him. But it's a difficult one to when someone he's just been accused of something. To then say you can't make a lip, we better move on. But
no, absolutely. But it's a big topic, and it may be a big topic that matters to nothing. But I mean, he may come in for a workout and nothing comes from it, and then that's it. But it's just an interesting conversation in terms of I saw the kind of the fan reaction to it was very much divided, and I felt that people who were defending the move were only saying, "Oh, well, you're only wanting it because you're happy to bag all those bad issues because he's a good player on the field." And some people are like, no, I mean, like I said, it's just it's worth a shot because like he hasn't actually we've got to. Some people have to be let out of their cage, and you can't cage people up forever, So I thought it was a good conversation to have, and one that may be quite important going forward if we do sign him. I think for that we'll wrap up. That's a big chunky news section, a lot of stuff to talk about. I think with that we'll wrap it up and we'll head over to our bold predictions. Okay, so for our bold predictions, we'll have 3 predictions each, where we're kind of reaching different various levels of how much we think is going to happen in terms of how strong we believe in this. Some of the stuff is a bit out there, some of it's maybe a bit more realistic. But David, do you want to kick us off with one of your positive bold predictions?
Yeah, but I've purposely avoided Zach Wilson on all of these. Just because,
so have I. Just everyone knows, there's no Zach Wilson. I don't want to discuss it. My heart's too much. I don't want to go positive or negative on this. So just so you
don't want to tempt it.
no tempting, exactly.
So my first one is going to be Corey Davis. I've got him going at 1,000+ yards and 10+ touchdowns. So his career high touchdown so far was last season. That was 5. So at first I thought that's not really that bold, but I was he's got to double his production in touchdowns in the space of 1 year. But I've seen that connection between Zach and Corey. I'm pretty confident he's going over 1,000 yards. There are some mouths to feed on this Jets offense. Elijah Moore's going to need to get his targets. Denzel Mims is going to need a few. Keelan Cole will need a few. But I've just got a feeling Zach Wilson and Corey Davis are going to combine for just a phenomenal amount of action for the Jets this year. So I'm going 1,000+ yards, 10 plus touchdowns for Corey Davis.
Right. Again, that's probably more. Actually, it's quite realistic in some sense. But when you do factor in that he actually has only had 5 touchdowns as his highest amount, then yeah, the 10 touchdown, it does make it a little bit more bold. But yeah, I'm all for that. That sounds really good. Like, I guess it's always easy to accept these positive things. I think there's a lot of positives going around. So I'll kick off my one with another positive one where I think that. I think one of the two linebackers. I've got a feeling. I think I'll put a name on it. I think Hamza Nasruddin is going to be a guy who's going to be a plus starter in most people's eyes going into next year. You look at the traits where he would have been, injury concerns. It's a similar situation to Bryce Hall, where he kind of dropped because of injury, but there was kind of borderline first, second round talent there. I just think you got two of the best the linebacker coaches in the NFL with Salah and with someone stole his name from my head, the defensive coordinator, Jeff Ulbrich. I think you got two really good linebacker coaches there. A guy who's got a lot of ability in terms of his physical ability, and he seems to be doing really well. And he's already penciled in as a starter even before Gerard Davis got injured. So I think Sherwood's going to do well as well. But I think I'm just putting name that. Yeah, I think Hamza's going to be, by the end of it, we're like, yes, he's definitely a locked in plus starter going into next year, and not a problem. So I think that's good positive ones. Do you want to throw a negative one out there, David?
Yeah, I mean this. Yeah,
you don't want to, but it's good. I think it's good to be a bit realistic, right?
But I'm going to put that our pass defense is going to be one of the bottom 5 in the league. And I don't necessarily think that's overly a bold take because there's so many unknowns. I mean, if you've got Bryce Hall on one side, which by all means he did a fine job last year coming off an injury, and the expectation is he's going to push on and he could really turn into a really good cornerback, but it's unknown. And then opposite him, you're going to kind of have Brandon Eccles, maybe Jason Pinnock, Michael Carter, Javin Guidry will be inside. I mean, they're not household names yet. Isaiah Dunn, they're not household names. So losing Carl Lawson as well, losing some of that pass rush ability is going to expose our defensive backs a little more than it probably would have. So I'm actually quietly hopeful that the cornerbacks aren't going to be as bad as maybe we think they're going to be. But if there's one area of the team that I'm really concerned about, and the one area of the team that I think could potentially fall down and cost the Jets some points and some wins, it's going to be their defensive backs. I'm happy with Marcus May and Lamarcus Joyner. Ashton Davis, I'm quite looking forward to seeing what he can do when he comes back. But the cornerbacks, the outside cornerbacks, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about it. We face some good quarterbacks this year, and they will pick on these rookies. It's going to be a baptism by fire, and it's great, but I think we might struggle.
Yeah, I think the only thing is that while we do face a few quarterbacks later on, I think that the early slate of quarterbacks aren't incredible.
Sam Darnold.
Oh wow, yeah, and Matt Jones. No, but I think in terms of like either not high end starters, a bit unproven, or even rookies, and someone like Matt Jones, there may be a little bit of help there. But I do think my kind of links in with my one that I think that we're going to have a bottom 5 sack numbers, even with the amount of ability we've got in the middle. I just feel that with the combination of the corners being inexperienced, they're going to let up maybe some things. The quarterbacks are going to be able to get the opposing quarterback's going to get the ball out quicker. I think our pass rusher from the outside is going to be, obviously we haven't got Carl Lawson, so I think it's going to be. I think while the guys are going to do some decent work, I just don't think they're going to get the sacks in, and I think we're kind of back to a similar defense that we've seen before, where the pass rush doesn't quite get home, because they can get the ball out quite quick. And I really think that when it happened, and I know I mentioned it when it happened, that Carl Lawson's like a Jenga piece, the Jenga piece analogy that I know some people mention. I know Daniel Jeremiah mentions it as well, where like you remove that, and that's the one that everything falls down. I really think Carl Lawson was that for our defense, because when you pair him with the interior and what he could do, it really helped all the other parts, and that's part of this defense. Salah's defense is based on pass rush, so maybe we're wrong on this one. I really hope that these last two predictions are wrong. That the coaching that's there, which we know is good coaching, is able to mask some of the issues, and we're able to generate some pass rush, and we're able to some of the guys who come in are able to do some good work. And I really hope I'm wrong on this one, but I think for once, I think the offense is going to carry a bit more this year than the defense, which is actually, I've always said it for many years. I said, if we're going to be a mediocre team, I've said it to my friends all the time, like, please, can we be an offensively strong mediocre team where the defense is poor? Like, because I've literally just, my whole life of being a Jets fan has been the other way around, whether we're good or bad. It's just the defense rules the day. So I don't know if I've, wished for this to happen, but it is what it is. But I think if the offense does some good things, and then we can fix up the defense, and Carl Lawson comes back and we bring some more numbers, I think that's a good way to build anyway. So I guess I'll take that, but I hope we're a little bit wrong on these ones. To wrap it up on these on the bold predictions, we'll go back to positive. So do you want to give your third and last and more positive bold prediction?
So ending on the positive, I've got a feeling that CJ Mosley is going to be a Pro Bowler this year.
Oh well,
I think instantly he's coming straight back. And he's getting into the Pro Bowl.
It links with mine a bit as well.
Slimmed down. He's slimmed down a little bit.
Yeah.
I just got a feeling about it. I just feel like he's got a lot to prove. People questioned a little bit him sitting out last season after taking all the money, and then getting injured against Buffalo in 2019. Yes. So I think he's got a point to prove. He's slimmed down. He's looked good, relatively good in preseason. He's getting to the ball carrier quickly. He still shows that really sharp kind of recognition of where the ball's going to go and getting there. I would have hoped that Carl Lawson would have helped him as well along the way.
Yeah.
Because having someone like that on the defense just makes the second level jobs a lot easier.
Yeah.
But I think I've really missed his coverage ability. I've been waiting for a long time for a Jets line. So when we signed him, I was so excited about it, and then he got injured after an interception of all things. Something we want to see more of. But I think 2018 was the last time he made the Pro Bowl with a 100-plus tackle season. Really, really positive for Baltimore. I've got a feeling we're going to see that this year. I'm going to go, my bold prediction, CJ Mosley, Pro Bowler 2021.
Well, absolutely. I think that links into my position about Nasruddin. And I think on top of the coaching, he's got a great on-field teacher as well in Mosley. And I think he's going to definitely have a big season. And like I said, as you announced your last prediction, it actually links in with mine. I think we're going to have 5 Pro Bowlers in whatever that means. I know the voting's silly, but even factoring that in terms of, I don't think we're going to be a bad team. And I think when we're such a bad team, just everybody gets tarnished with. I think Quinnen and Mackay to an extent, but I think especially Quinnen really suffered in the voting because of the Jets just being the Jets of last year. I think if we're a more fun team, we've got we win some games that people don't expect. I think it's going to really highlight some of the better players, and so I think if I were to name them, I think there could be a few variants to what I say, but I think it'll be Quinnen. I think even though the pass rush totals will be low as a unit, I think he will be really good still in this defense. I just think that maybe some of the other pieces around him won't be able to do as much when you think about what's happening on the back end. But I think Quinnen's going to be really strong. I think CJ Mosley as well. And then I'll go offensively. I think Corey Davis is going to find so many targets and production. I really feel that I think he's ready for another step in his breakout. I think he had a good year last year. I think he takes another step. And I think similar to what you said earlier with Corey Davis hitting that total. I agree with you on those totals as well, and I think that's going to drive a potential. It's going to really show him as a potential kind of Pro Bowl level receiver. And then AVT and Mackay. I think that there's going to be, I think their thing of being together, pushing. I think there's going to be people highlighting the film with them destroying people off the line. And I think that Mackay will build off last year's draft. I think he will have a good year, a lot of highlight plays, even if maybe pass D is not as strong. The run D is going to be even stronger in this system. And AVT is a big name coming into this draft season. A lot of people knew him, and the guard play around the league is not very strong. So I think he definitely, if he has a good year, he could definitely make it. So those are the 5 as much as I wish I could put Zach in there, I'll temper my excitement right now. But no, I think those are the five that make it, and I think just being a better team overall will help them get a bit more respect on their name when it comes to people voting for them, because it is a very fickle thing, Pro Bowl voting. But it's just one of those things where I think it's just a recognition on the ability that we've infused into the team, and I think that the team being better will help that. So yeah, I cannot wait. It's unbelievable that we're only a week away. This time next week we'd have started the season with the Bucks and the Cowboys on Thursday night. So just so excited to kind of get into it, and I cannot wait. Next week we're going to have a preview show of the Panthers game. We're going to have a Panthers fan from the UK. He runs a podcast as well. So, but there's no Panthers podcast, but he knows his stuff about Panthers. Yeah, so he's going to be good to give us a bit of perspective from what's the news coming out of Carolina going into the game. And I think we're just going to pack up a lot of stuff getting ready for the season. So, is there anything else you want to say to the people before we head off, David?
Fingers crossed, no more injuries.
Yes.
Don't forget to set your fantasy lineups for next Thursday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Classic rookie mistake is not to set it on the Wednesday or the Thursday,
especially
before the first game.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah.
Get him in. Get Zach Wilson in. He's going to have a field day against Carolina, so get him in there.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be great.
I'm probably not going to play that.
No, it's great. On a side note, actually, from what we're doing, I want to mention actually something. Quinnen Williams did an interview with Neil Reynolds, who we know in the UK. And so I listened to it. It's quite fun. Quinnen's such an awesome dude. Like, he's such an affable person. He's so easy to root for. So it's on Game Pass. It's on podcast services. So give that plug, because Neil Reynolds, these interviews he does are really good. And obviously we've got a Jet specific one there with Quinnen. Nice little conversation there. So yeah, just give that a plug, because it's a good listen. But yeah, I hope you enjoy the weekend. If you've got your drafts coming up in fantasy, good luck. Hopefully you're able to sneak a few of those late round picks on some of those Jets players, Ty Johnson, Elijah Moore, hopefully in the later rounds. That would be good. Hopefully it goes well for you. So we'll see you next week.